The city of Los Angeles. January 1947. The streets hum with post-war energy. Hollywood glitters with neon lights, movie premieres, and the promise of fame. But beneath the glamour, something darker lurks. A darkness that would soon reveal itself in one of the most haunting crimes in American history. This is the story of the Black Dahlia, a case that shocked the nation. A mystery that still lingers in the shadows of Hollywood, and a secret that refuses to die. Begins with a walk. A mother in Los Angeles, pushing her stroller along Norton Avenue. The winter air is crisp. The morning sun barely warms the sidewalks. She scans the neighborhood, quiet, ordinary, until her eyes fall on something unusual. First, she thinks it's a mannequin, lying in the grass, ill, motionless. But as she steps closer, her breath catches, her hands tremble. It is not a mannequin. It is the body of a young woman. And from that moment forward, Los Angeles would never be the same. Police arrive quickly. Detectives and officers swarm the scene. What they discover leaves even hardened investigators shaken. The victim is a woman in her early 20s. Dark hair, delicate features, her body carefully positioned, as if placed there deliberately. No blood at the scene, no sign of struggle, only silence. Who was she? And why was she left in such a disturbing display? The answer would come soon enough. Her name was Elizabeth Short. But the world would remember her as the Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short was born in 1924. In the quiet town of Medford, Massachusetts. She grew up like many young women of her time, with dreams bigger than her surroundings. Her father left when she was young, her childhood marked by instability. But Elizabeth carried with her a longing for beauty, for recognition, for escape. Hollywood was her destination, the land of stars, where dreams could come true overnight, or vanish just as quickly. By 1946, Elizabeth had made her way to Los Angeles. Friends remembered her as striking. Her dark hair, her pale skin, her love of wearing all black. She was magnetic, but mysterious. Some say she sought roles in film. Others recall she worked as a waitress, or drifted from city to city. She became known in nightclubs, a familiar face among servicemen and hopefuls. But she also carried secrets. Stories about her life often shifted, her past blurred by rumors and reinvention. She was a woman both admired and misunderstood. The press would later give her the name, the Black Dahlia, inspired by a recent film called The Blue Dahlia, and Elizabeth's own style, her dark wardrobe, her mysterious allure. But in life, she was simply Elizabeth, a young woman searching for her place in a city that often devoured dreamers whole. Detectives now faced the daunting task. Who could have done this? And why? The case quickly became a media storm. Reporters descended on Los Angeles. Headlines screamed across newspapers. Rumors spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know, who killed the Black Dahlia? Police interviews painted conflicting pictures of Elizabeth. Some described her as sweet, kind-hearted, a girl trying to survive. Others portrayed her as reckless, involved with dangerous men, living a double life. The truth, likely somewhere in between. But one thing was certain. Someone had wanted her silenced, and in a way that ensured no one would ever forget. The investigation pulled in dozens of suspects. Actors, ex-lovers, strangers. Some confessed for attention. Others were accused by rumor. But no one could be proven guilty. The evidence was scarce, the trail already growing cold. And as weeks turned into months, the mystery deepened. Meanwhile, the public became obsessed. Elizabeth's face appeared on every front page. Her name whispered in cafes and movie theaters. The city was captivated and horrified. Hollywood's glittering facade had cracked, revealing a darkness it could not hide. The Black Dahlia became more than a case. She became a symbol of innocence lost, of secrets buried, of Hollywood's darkest undercurrent. But who was behind it? What motive lay hidden? Detectives chased every lead, every whisper, every rumor. Some believed it was personal, crime of passion. Others insisted it was professional, the work of someone meticulous, carefully planning each step. Theories multiplied, but answers remained elusive, and the city could only wait. The story of Elizabeth Short did not end with her death. In many ways it began there, for her case would become one of the most infamous unsolved crimes in American history. Puzzle with missing pieces, a story retold countless times, but never fully understood. The Black Dahlia murder, Hollywood's darkest secret, and perhaps a secret that will never be solved. The days after the discovery, Los Angeles buzzed with whispers. Everywhere people asked the same question: who could do something like this? Detectives scoured the city. They retraced Elizabeth's final steps. The nightclubs she visited, the friends she met, the men she spoke to. But Los Angeles was a maze. City of masks, where truth was slippery, and lies flowed easily. The coroner's report added to the horror. Elizabeth's death had been brutal, cold, calculated. It was not the work of chance, but of someone deliberate, precise. This was no random act. It was a statement, message, that no one could yet understand. The newspapers thrived on the story. The headlines grew bolder, the rumors darker. Some claimed Elizabeth was a Hollywood starlet. Others painted her as a femme fatale. Truth was buried beneath speculation. But the press didn't care. The Black Dahlia sold papers, and the public couldn't look away. Detectives followed every lead. One day a package arrived, addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner. Inside, Elizabeth's personal belongings, birth certificate, photos, business cards. The package had been carefully cleaned. No fingerprints, no trace of the sender. It was chilling, as if the killer was taunting them. More letters followed, cut-out words, ransom-style notes. "Catch me if you can." One note read. The writer claimed to be Elizabeth's killer. But was it true? Or another cruel hoax? Detectives could not be sure. The city began to panic. If someone capable of this was free, who might be next? Rumors spread of a serial killer, a phantom haunting Los Angeles. Women grew fearful of walking alone. Parents warned their daughters. The glamour of Hollywood dimmed, replaced by suspicion and dread. Detectives narrowed their search. One theory stood out: that Elizabeth had known her killer. Perhaps a man she trusted. A date gone wrong. A friend with hidden rage. Or maybe someone far more sinister. A person skilled in anatomy, with knowledge of surgery. This led investigators toward doctors, surgeons, medical students. Dozens were questioned, but none could be proven guilty. One name, however, kept returning: Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy physician, intelligent, eccentric. He was known for his charm and his cruelty. Hodel lived in a mansion in Los Angeles, House of Secrets, where whispers of strange gatherings persisted. He became a prime suspect, but there was no proof. And in 1949, the case against him quietly collapsed. Still, suspicion lingered. Decades later, Hodel's own son, a former LAPD detective, would accuse his father of being the Black Dahlia killer. But that revelation came much later. At the time, Hodel walked free, and the case continued to spiral. Other suspects filled the headlines: ex-boyfriends, strangers spotted with Elizabeth, men with violent pasts. Some confessed, but their stories quickly unraveled. Others were accused by desperate rumors. But the evidence was never enough. For every suspect named, another shadow appeared. The mystery only deepened. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's family was left devastated. Her mother, Phoebe, learned of her daughter's death through a cruel trick. A reporter had called her, pretending Elizabeth had won a beauty contest. Only after extracting details about her daughter's life did the reporter reveal the truth. Her daughter was gone, and the story was front-page news. It was a heartbreak the family never recovered from. The investigation dragged on. The deputy dedicated months to the case. Hundreds of detectives. Thousands of hours. But Los Angeles was too vast. Too chaotic. Tips poured in daily. Each more sensational than the last. But none solved the crime. Eventually, the case began to fade. Other stories filled the papers. Other tragedies claimed the headlines. Elizabeth's murder slowly slipped into cold case files. But the fascination never disappeared. The Black Dahlia remained alive. Not in body, but in legend. Years passed, then decades, and still the mystery endured. Writers obsessed over it. Filmmakers reimagined it. Detectives revisited it. Each time new theories emerged. But the truth, always out of reach. The Black Dahlia became more than a woman. She became a symbol of Hollywood's dangerous allure, of beauty corrupted by power, of dreams twisted into nightmares. Her story was retold in whispers, bars, at dinner tables, in hushed conversations about the darkness behind the lights. Hollywood's darkest secret. Yet beneath the legend, Elizabeth was still human. She had hopes, she had dreams, she had flaws, she had friends, she laughed, she cried, she loved, and she deserved more than to be remembered only as a headline. She deserved justice, justice that never came. And so, the city carried on. Los Angeles rebuilt its glittering image. The stars continued to shine. But behind it all, the Dahlia's shadow remained, watching, waiting, her story, forever unfinished. The years after Elizabeth's death were filled with silence. But silence did not mean peace. Detectives still carried the case in the back of their minds. Some whispered about corruption. Others suspected the truth had been buried intentionally. The Black Dahlia had become too big, too public, too dangerous to fully expose. By the 1950s, Los Angeles had changed. The war was behind them. Hollywood was booming. But the Dahlia's memory lingered. She haunted the city like a ghost. Her story whispered in alleyways. Her image burned into headlines. Her name etched into police files that gathered dust. Then came new theories, each one darker than the last. Some said Elizabeth had been caught in the wrong company, that she mingled with men of power, men who wanted her silence. Others believed she was targeted as a message, a warning to others, a symbol of what could happen in Hollywood's underworld. Theories spread faster than facts, and the truth remained elusive. By the 1960s, the case had taken on mythic status. Los Angeles had grown, but the Dahlia mystery grew with it. Writers and journalists sought to solve it. Books claimed to reveal secrets. Articles promised the final truth. Yet with every answer offered, more questions emerged. Some believed the LAPD knew more than it revealed, that evidence was hidden, that suspects with influence were protected. Rumors suggested Hollywood elites, or corrupt officials, or even organized crime. The deeper people dug, the darker the theories became. And then there was George Hodel, the wealthy doctor once questioned by police. His name refused to disappear. Decades later, his son Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective, began to investigate his own father. What he discovered shocked him. Old photographs, hidden writings, and connections to Elizabeth Short. Steve Hodel became convinced. His father had killed the Black Dahlia. And not only her, but perhaps others. The accusations reignited public interest. Could it be true? Was the killer hiding in plain sight all along? George Hodel had the skill, means, arrogance, and his home, a strange mansion known as the Soden House, seemed like the perfect setting for secrets. Its dark corridors, a strange architecture, hidden rooms. To many, it felt like the place where the Dahlia's story might have ended. But Steve's theory, while compelling, remained unproven. There was no concrete evidence, no DNA, no undeniable proof, just shadows and suspicion. Some believed him, others dismissed it. The truth slipped through their fingers once again. Still, the case refused to die. Other names surfaced. Other suspects emerged. Each one painted as the villain. Each one accused in books, films, or documentaries. But each time, the mystery remained unsolved. Meanwhile, Elizabeth herself was often forgotten. The headlines spoke of the Black Dahlia, but rarely of the woman behind the name. She was reduced to an image, symbol, cautionary tale. But those who knew her remembered differently. She was shy. She was kind. She longed for connection. She was not a myth. She was real. And that truth mattered more than the legend. Still, the legend grew. Hollywood embraced the story. Movies used her name. Writers borrowed her tragedy. The Black Dahlia became entertainment. But with each retelling, the truth was blurred further. Fact mixed with fiction. Reality twisted into myth. The case became less about Elizabeth and more about the mystery itself. But deep inside the LAPD archives, the case file remained. Thousands of pages, dozens of suspects, endless reports, and still, no answer. The 1990s brought new hope. Forensic science was advancing. DNA technology was on the rise. Could modern science finally solve it? Some evidence was re-examined, letters tested, suspects reviewed. But time had eroded too much. Witnesses were gone. Clues had vanished. And the answers slipped away once again. Even so, the Black Dahlia remained a powerful story, because it was not just about one woman. It was about what she represented. The dangers of chasing fame. The hidden corruption of power. The fragility of dreams in a city built on illusion. Her story warned of the darkness beneath the spotlight. And that warning echoed louder with each passing decade. By the 2000s, documentaries, films, and books reignited her case once more. Audiences were captivated. Viewers were chilled. Theories clashed. Debates raged. But the truth remained out of reach. Just as it had in 1947, Elizabeth Short, a young woman chasing a dream, had become eternal. Her life cut short. Her story unfinished. But her name, never forgotten. The Black Dahlia, Hollywood's darkest secret, and perhaps its most haunting ghost. The decades rolled on. But the Black Dahlia never faded. She remained in the public eye. Her story passed down like a dark legend. Her name spoken in the same breath as Hollywood's greatest scandals. Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, the woman who became a mystery. Why does her story endure? Why does the world still look back to that winter morning in 1947? Perhaps it is because the case was never solved. Unanswered questions always haunt us. They linger in the back of the mind. They pull us deeper. They make us wonder, what really happened? Perhaps it is because of the setting. Hollywood, city of dreams, city of masks, a city where everything glitters. But not everything is gold. The murder shattered the illusion. It exposed the shadows beneath the spotlight. It revealed that fame and beauty could not protect you. Not here. Not in Los Angeles. Or perhaps, it is because Elizabeth herself remains unknowable. The newspapers shaped her image. The press turned her into a character. But who was she really? To some, she was a hopeful actress. To others, a lost drifter. To her family, a daughter. To her friends, a companion. The truth lies somewhere in between. She was simply a young woman, searching for her place in the world. A woman who deserved more than legend. A woman who deserved a future. And yet, that future was stolen. Stolen in a way so cruel, so deliberate, that the crime became unforgettable. Elizabeth Short would never become a star. But her name would shine brighter than most. Not on a movie poster, but in a case file. In a headline, in a mystery that refuses to fade. Over time, the Black Dahlia became more than a murder. She became a mirror, a reflection of the fears of her time, and the fears of ours. She represents the darkness behind beauty, the cost of chasing dreams, the danger of trusting the wrong person. Her story asks us difficult questions. Who can we trust? How well do we really know others? And why do some crimes never find answers? Even today, theories swirl. Some insist George Hodel was guilty. Others believe in different suspects. Some think the truth was covered up, buried by power, silenced by corruption. But the fact remains. No one was ever convicted. No trial ever closed the case. The Black Dahlia remains unsolved. And that is perhaps the most haunting detail of all. The world has changed since 1947. Los Angeles has grown. Hollywood has transformed. Technology has advanced. But some mysteries remain untouched. And the Dahlia's mystery is one of them. Her case is still open, still unsolved, still sitting in the files of the LAPD, waiting, gathering dust, challenging every new detective who dares to look. Yet even without answers, the story lives on. Films, documentaries, each retelling adds another layer, another possibility, another shadow. And every time we revisit it, we are reminded of the same truth, that sometimes evil leaves no fingerprints, only scars. Elizabeth Short's story is tragic, but it is also a warning about the dangers of obsession, the cruelty of exploitation, and the way society turns tragedy into spectacle. She became the Black Dahlia in death, but in life she was simply Elizabeth. That is the secret we must remember. Behind the mystery, behind the myth, behind the headlines, there was a woman who laughed, who dreamed, who wanted to belong, and she never got the chance. The Black Dahlia murder, Hollywood's darkest secret, a mystery that has lasted for generations, a shadow that will never fully fade. 'Cause some stories refuse to die, and this is one of them.